guys, let's talk about it. Wisconsin goes to Ann Arbor, and Michigan, they were up at halftime. The announcers, I mean, they were not going to let anybody with ears not know that Michigan has blown halftime lead. I mean, I think they mentioned it like 10 times. I was like, guys, we get it. It's okay. Um, but in the second half, Michigan kept playing well. Wisconsin, they were missing some threes, but they were making some to keep it close there at the end of the game. It was just kind of a back and forth game, but Michigan kept pulling ahead, and Wisconsin never really seemed to get back there. That's three straight losses for Wisconsin, three straight, starting with Nebraska last week, Purdue this weekend, and then of course the Wolverines tonight. Joe, what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, this is, like you said, huge for Michigan being able to actually hold a second half lead and get the win. And it wasn't even like, I mean, Wisconsin definitely cut it close in that second half and made things, made it a game. But it wasn't like Michigan ever was like really out of it. It was pretty back and forth, and Michigan's able to make plays. I think, the more interesting part will be Wisconsin, just because, although, yes, great win for Michigan. As you can kind of look at the bottom of the screen here, Michigan's 8-15 and 3-9 in the Big Ten. Good win for them. And there's some Juwan Howard talk, I'm sure, with that. But Wisconsin is the one that it matters more. And I think this is kind of the game where it shows, like, one, just how important AJ Storr is. He started off really well, and had some moments in the second half. But I think that period late in the first half, he was really quiet. And Wisconsin's offense really seems like it's starting to go where he goes. Chucky Hepburn, great game, which they absolutely needed. But, Robbie Hummel on the call mentioned it quite a few times. In that second half, when Wisconsin wanted to get to the rim and they got there, it was a bucket. If they didn't get to the rim, they just weren't able to hit everything. 5 for 19 from three after struggling shooting from three against Purdue the other day. There's just some, I think it's just kind of how Wisconsin is. How they're much better at getting to the rim this year, and they showed that at some in the second half. But at the end of the day, to me, they're still pretty reliant on the jumper in general, and they have dudes that can hit them. But when it's not falling, then what? And Michigan was able to take advantage. You have Doug McDaniel make enough plays, just really across the board. You look across 4 people in double figures. Just a lot of good effort from everybody, I thought, which is not what you've seen from Michigan lately. So that was pretty good to see from them.
Yeah, no, for sure. You definitely saw Michigan playing their hearts out in this one, and that's what you've not seen from some of these other teams who have given up second half leads, and just seemed like Michigan. I don't know what Juwan Howard said. I don't know if he, took their oatmeal cream pies from him or what he did, and said, no treats for you unless you guys win this one. I have no idea, but whatever he did in the locker room, he was able to get those guys to go out there and play with their hair on fire and give great effort. Evan, what were your thoughts on the game?
Something what Joe was saying. I feel like this Wisconsin team, I feel like they're almost unlike other Wisconsin teams we've seen in the past, where I feel like usually Wisconsin, they're good at, what they're good at. They just, beat to death, whether it's going to the post or whatever it may be. And it may not be the most, fun basketball to watch, but they're good at it, and it works really well. And I'm just really surprised going back to the Purdue game over the weekend, and even tonight, going to the post worked for them so well. I was just really surprised to see them kind of go away from that as much when they kind of got back into the game, or even maybe took the lead and then started relying on those jumpers again. Just kind of really, it was surprising to me, because I just felt like, it was working. Why are you going away from it? And then, no surprise, Purdue was able to pull away from it on Sunday, and then Michigan was able to pull it away here tonight.
Yeah, Brett, you mentioned it, man. You're kind of heartbroken a little bit seeing Michigan win, but they did win. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, for me, the Badgers are in a lull. You mentioned it. They've now dropped 3 in a row. The first 2 were excusable, but this one is where you start to hit the panic button. No, I say it all the time on this show. No road game is free in the Big Ten, even against the worst team in the Big Ten. But when you're one of those top 4 teams in that top tier, and you're on the road against the worst team in the conference, hands down, that you can't lose that game. So I think it's time to hit the panic button for the Badgers. I also do think that talent-wise, Wisconsin's kind of been playing a bit above where they kind of stand talent-wise. They've been winning a lot of games, a lot of close games. And I think a lot of that goes to kind of the stability they have year over year on their team. And obviously they added AJ Storr in the offseason. But these guys have played a lot of basketball together for the most part. And, having that kind of cohesiveness on a team, it's just better when it comes down to those close games. You can trust your guys. You're out there riding for your guys. and it's worked out for them to this point. But they're just kind of coming crashing down to reality that this isn't a top 6 team in the nation like they were ranked last week. Is it a top 25 team? Probably, but yeah, I mean this game's also probably what they needed to, just a bit of a wake up call. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how they proceed from here.
Yeah, and you look at their schedule, like their next game is at Rutgers. And we'll talk about, I know, Rutgers in a little bit. Rutgers has won 2 in a row. They seem to have some life in their program. The RAC is a tough place to play, one of the tougher places in the Big Ten. You have Wisconsin's ranked 11, I think, right now or whatever in the 8 people. That place is going to be rocking, and so it goes from like Wisconsin should win this game at Rutgers, or they probably would need it, to like they absolutely need it. You can't drop 4 in a row. You mentioned it, Brant. Like at Nebraska, obviously they're up 18, and you don't want to, or whatever it was, and you don't want to lose that. But at Nebraska, whatever, not the worst loss. Home against Purdue, you lost to the best team in the country, or the second best team in the country, whatever. You can't lose to at Michigan and at Rutgers in the same week this year. That cannot happen.
Yeah, no, exactly. I will say on the bright side, if they do lose 4 in a row to at Rutgers, the game after that, they play Ohio State. And that's a win for everybody. Everybody wins that game. So
True.
They're not going to lose 5 in a row. That's the good news there. Now, guys, I got to be honest. We have 2 Boilermakers here on the podcast, and nobody even mentioned the stat above all stats that is the greatest indicator of an unfairly refereed game and is the main indicator of why a team wins. Okay? Guess how many free throws Wisconsin had?
In this game?
Yes.
12.
19. Guess
19.
how many free throws Michigan had? I'll give you a hint. It's more than 19.
26.
25. You were very close. Good job. That's what it is, guys. That's what it is. Michigan shot more free throws. Obviously, they had the refs in their back pocket. So that's right, Brant. Am I right? I mean,
yeah, I mean that's what I'm seeing all over the place. You hack Edey so many times, he gets to the free throw line more than anybody else, and bang, and that's how they win game.
Yeah,
that's how they do it.
Yep,
that is how you do it. Now, and on a more serious note, I will say, for me, I felt like the biggest thing in this game was Terrace Reed just absolutely demoralizing Stephen Crowell on the block every single time. I mean, there were times when Crowell was trying to back him down, and literally, like, Reed was backing him up from the basket. I think there was like one of those last possessions they had, Crowell was trying to back Reed down, and eventually Crowell just like gave up and was like, I'm just going to throw this up here. It was one of the ugliest shots there was all game, and that's specifically because Terrace Reed was able to just essentially bully Stephen Crowell and get him away from the basket. And if that continues, I got to be honest, this Rutgers game, like you guys were talking about, it does not bode well for them, because Cliff Amorie is going to be able to do that, and Rutgers is going to play tough, mean basketball. It's going to do that to them. We mentioned the panic button a little bit, but Evan, I'm curious your thoughts. Is it time for the Badgers to kind of hit the panic button a little bit?
I think it really kind of bodes on the Rutgers game. I mean, obviously, if you lose, 4 or 5 in a row, then yeah, 100%. I think this is where, again, like kind of we talked about already, like the first 2 games, you can understand me why they lost. When at Nebraska is a great environment, especially when a top team comes to town, especially when they can get rolling there. Again, Purdue, like Joe said, one of the best teams in the country. No shame in losing by single digits on their home court. This one's chalk to a bit of a head scratcher. Maybe they're coming off. It was a physical game on Sunday. Maybe there's a little bit of a hangover, whatever it may be, whatever you want to say. But if they come out and lay an egg against Rutgers, then yeah, it is absolutely time to mash that panic button.
Yeah, for sure. And the other piece of it too is like you have to get more out of your bench. Chucky Hepburn did what he did in this game: 17 points, 2 rebounds, only 1 assist. You'd like to see more assists from Chucky in this game, but that was a complaint that I heard from Wisconsin fans after the Purdue game was, we need Chucky to shoot better. We need Chucky to shoot more. Well, he took 11 shots in this game, made 6 of them, took 3 threes and made 2 of them. But at the end of the day, he only had 1 assist. And one of the biggest reasons for that is because they only had 6 points off the bench. I mean, when you had 68 points and only 6 of them come off the bench, Blackwell with only 3, that's not that's not going to get it done. Brant, was there another area, whether it be the bench or down low or anything like that Wisconsin needs to look for in their next game against Rutgers to really fix?
Yeah, I mean, I thought your point about Chucky was great. I do think that getting him involved in the offense, rather than just passing, actually getting some scoring, would have helped out. But as you saw here, it really did not put the script for him. They still lost the game. I think if Connor Essegian could get going, and we've been saying that all year, he could be an X factor for this team. What they really need help with is scoring on the outside. But he hasn't been the same player he was last year.
No, he hasn't, and some of it's been role change, and I like kind of the player that he's been more this year, but that's with the other players on his team filling their roles and doing what they need to do. One last question for you, Joe, and then we'll move on from here. This Michigan team obviously was on a terrible losing streak. I think they were like 1 for their last 12 or something like that. And they just were having a really hard time this season. Doug McDaniel is back. I felt like Jalen Llewellyn played a really good game. He got 20 minutes, and even Doug and Jalen Llewellyn were out there together a little bit. Not a lot, but there was a little bit of that. Do you have any hopes? Obviously, Michigan's not going to make the NCAA tournament or anything like that, but do you have any hopes for Michigan to continue on with this season and improve the season a little bit more?
The tough thing is, like, even if they play pretty well, which I think they have it in them. We'll see if this was just kind of their like one final hurrah and everything was able to click. But you look at their schedule and their next 5 games: at Nebraska, at Illinois, home against Michigan State, at Northwestern, home against Purdue. Not the easiest schedule to get right. So, I mean, even when you include this Wisconsin, they literally play the pretty much consensus top 6 teams in the Big Ten all in a row. I mean, if they're able to like stay competitive against Nebraska, maybe even pull off a win, I think that would be like really good signs. As you guys are Ohio State fans, if you want to keep Juwan Howard, that would be a very good win then.
Yeah.
But that's a tough schedule for them to try to keep up with that. So we'll see what happens. I do have one real quick. I didn't quite get this in with the Wisconsin is from @Cobra Stats on Twitter. He's a Purdue stats guy, but does some Big Ten stuff as well. Really just good follow in general. Purdue are teams that play Purdue, like their next game or the game after they play Purdue in the Big Ten, teams are now 2-8 on the season.
Wow.
And that's been pretty consistent the last 2 years, even too. It was kind of a theme, I know, especially 2 years ago with Jaden Ivey. Purdue lost at IU, and then the next game IU got blown out at home by Michigan. It was a pretty consistent theme the last couple of years. It's been pretty weird.
We should take a look at the free throws. See if that keeps up. Might be onto something there. Tell Cobra look at the free throws next time as well. That could give us some direction there. Do have a comment from Dylan. Dylan, a loaded boiler huddle. You love to see it. And JR, handsome as always. Hey, I didn't wear the hat tonight just for you, Dylan. I was hoping you would notice. So appreciate you being here and watching, man. Listen to the Big Ten Huddle. Please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. If this was your first time listening, we are the Big Ten Huddle. We cover all things Big Ten football and basketball. We have a long episode every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, all at 9 o'clock. So come in, check us out, get in the chat, let us know what you're thinking. We would love to have you join us and learn more about the Big Ten.